So here we go, folks. In a presidency that has been defined by the word FAFO, another person is about to find out, as James Comey, at the time I'm recording this, has been indicted on federal crimes related to obstruction of justice and making false statements to Congress. Now, I know many of you listening to this realize that there are many more charges that James Comey deserved to have gotten. However, as time has gone on, the statute of limitations for most of what he did has run out. For those of you who are too young to remember, James Comey was once the head of the FBI. And in the 2016 election, he conspired with the Clinton campaign and the Obama administration to use knowingly false information and present it to the FISA court in order to justify being able to spy on Trump's campaign and then leak the information that they had found to the Clinton campaign. And then when their efforts failed, they leaked the information to the media, who was then able to go through and smear President Trump all over cable news for the next couple of years as the Trump-Russia hoax was born. As they went through and did a special counsel investigation that found absolutely nothing. They knew they had nothing right from the get-go, but was able to drag it on all the way through the midterm in order to bring Republicans down and help the Democrats win. The indictment surprised absolutely nobody. The media was already gearing up for the announcement of the indictment and trying to pre-wire the narrative. The narrative being that this is a baseless prosecution, that Trump is abusing his position in order to target his political opponents, and basically accusing Trump of doing what Comey and the rest of the Democrat Party had done for the last 8 years. And here's a little bit of what that sounded like.
Sources tell CBS News prosecutors are close to a decision on whether or not to charge former FBI Director James Comey with a federal crime. It's not clear what exactly that would be, but we're hearing this just a few days after President Trump called on the DOJ to prosecute his political enemies. What are you hearing about this potential indictment?
They're nearing a decision in the Eastern District of Virginia whether to do this or not do this, and they have a reason to try to get to that decision soon because there's a deadline for all this, Errol. The statute of limitations for the alleged misconduct that James Comey denies is Tuesday. So if they don't have a case by Tuesday, they cannot bring a case. But this is a difficult decision.
And that's going to be the narrative that the left is going to use during the entire trial of James Comey. That this is a political prosecution going after his enemies, trying to get revenge. They're also going to go out there and claim that this should never have been brought and that the federal prosecutors initially didn't want to bring the case, but was replaced. And then the new prosecutors were rushed into making a decision that they will say no other prosecutor would have done. They're going to do everything that they can to try and make it seem like Trump is doing to them what they had done to Trump. And then, of course, while they are doing that, they're going to continue to try and justify all of the abuse of power that they had engaged in order to try and target and go after President Trump. Now, while we all know that being able to get an indictment on someone is relatively easy, the old joke being that you can indict a ham sandwich. But now the question will be, is what the Democrats had said all those years about no one being above the law going to be proven true? Or are the Democrats going to go out there and get away with yet another crime? Now, as we go through, yes, this is in federal court, so it's a little bit different than some of the jury that Trump had faced. However, as you have seen with the left, they seem to be able to justify anything and everything that they want, up to and including political assassinations. So it only really takes one left-wing extremist, one radical Democrat, or really just any Democrat in general to get on the jury, and James Comey will be able to walk free, as it only takes one person to refuse to vote guilty, no matter how overwhelming the evidence is, for him to get away with it. And we're talking about the same type of system in which radical judges have been able to get on the bench. And whether or not we get to trial, that's going to be a question that we will soon find out, as if the judge drawn in this turns out to be a radical leftist, it might just get tossed out, ignoring any and all evidence in the case. And while I'd like to hope that the justice system puts nobody above the law, as I had hoped that the justice system would put no one beneath the law, I don't know. It is hard for me to keep faith, knowing that the Democrats, being who they are, would go through, get on a jury, ignore all the evidence, and decide, nope, we're not going to convict him because he was going after Trump. He was a national hero. We're going to let him go scot-free. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, and maybe when it all comes down to it, we will get a fair trial, and Comey, if a fair trial is held, could face up to 5 years in prison. But even in the best of scenarios, James Comey will have gotten away with most of the corruption, abuse of power, and illegal conduct that he had engaged in while the head of the FBI, and to which he had profited off of when he wrote his book trying to claim some sort of moral high ground, as he claims that Trump was such an existential threat that anything and everything that they did, no matter how corrupt, no matter how illegal, was justified in the name of protecting the country. And while justice has finally come for James Comey, we'll also have all the entertainment from all the videos that will be cut of Democrats who have once said nobody is above the law, twisting themselves into pretzels, trying to defend someone who has clearly, with all evidence on video and in a public hearing, clearly guilty of the crimes in which he has been indicted for. And while I am skeptical that we'll be able to clear the hurdle of left-wing activist judges and be able to clear the hurdle and get a jury that is more interested in justice than political affiliation, even if the left is able to help James Comey escape the consequences of his actions, we can at least take comfort that, at least for the time being, the process itself could be the devastating punishment. But for now, all we can do is wait and see. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click like, and I'll see you on the next one.